So welcome back. See, this is not a year. We're getting this back on track, so, woo. Anyways, today I wanted to read chapter 2 of Jonah. I read the book of Jonah real recently, and, it hit me a lot, because, a lot of us have read this growing up, or at least heard of the story, even if, the story of Jonah is one of the stories that even people who are non-Christian know about. Whether it's just because, it's a very popular, fun story. It's not very much fun when you read it, but, to kids it sounds really fun, or like the VeggieTales movie or whatever. Story of Jonah. God tells him to do something. He says no. He gets thrown into the ocean, eaten by fish, stays there for 3 days, gets spat back out, actually does the thing he's supposed to do. Okay. So, a lot of people are aware of this story. Anyways, so as I said, I was looking at chapter 2. So chapter 2 is while Jonah is inside the fish. Okay? So, from inside the fish, Jonah prayed to the Lord his God. He said, "In my distress I called to the Lord, and he answered me. From the deep in the realm of the dead I called for help, and you listened to my cry." So, right here, Jonah is starting his prayer with a thing from Psalms, which is, useful. Psalms are supposed to be good at getting you to get into prayer or being your prayer. So he's starting it with that because he's like, dude, I am deep in the realm of the dead. I have been eaten alive. I don't know how much more realm of the dead you can get. Like, literally, I am actually eaten alive. So, I think this is the good one for this situation. Anyways. So then he's like, "And you cast me... You hurled me into the depths, into the very heart of the seas, and the currents swirled around me. All your waves and breakers swept over me." This is literally what happened. But he's also, once again, quoting a different psalm. But, this is very, obviously very literal for him. He was thrown into the sea, and he was eaten by a fish. But, this is also, since I said it's also a psalm, it's also for us as well. Because it's there's God, we can't deny the fact that God is actually the one in this situation who literally forced Jonah into this situation. There wasn't a, whoops, it was a, "Here you go, Jonah, into the ocean with you, you're going to get eaten." And there's a lot of times in our individual lives where we feel like that, because, all of us have had tragedies or sufferings in which, we've been like, what the heck? How is this possible? How is this feasible? Why is this going on? I feel like I'm about to die. I am being suffocated and drowning. And it's just so intense, and it's so difficult, and you just can't figure out how to do anything. You don't understand what's going on. You just don't get it. But then, you have to admit the fact that you're in that situation, that it's horrible. And, often people are like, then why does God allow these things? Well, then, because then, what's next is "I have been banished from your sight, yet I will look again towards your holy temple." So, even though right now he feels like he's been thrown away from God and that God's not paying attention to him, or that, he is way too deep in the angst and the suffering and the horribleness that he will never, ever feel it to God, but yet, at the same time, he knows that one day he will see God and be back in his holy temple. And it's just one of those things, you have to keep that in mind whenever you're going through suffering, because, it's so easy to just sit there and be like, woe is me, and then never get better. You always have to have hope. Because, that's the purpose of suffering, actually. It says in Romans, it's not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured out into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us. That's Romans 5, the beginning of Romans 5, okay? Anyways, so with that in mind, looking at this, it's the same sort of thing. You're being thrown to the wolves, yes, but look at what you get out of it. I have severe depression. So there's many times where I'm sitting there and I just feel thrown to the wolves, and there's absolutely nothing doing going on, and I can't sense anything because it feels like I'm emotionally drowning. But then I can always keep in the back of my mind going, Right now I feel like I'm drowning, but I know that I will look towards God's holy temple again. Maybe not tonight, like maybe tonight's not a night for me to be able to like connect. Maybe tonight's not a night where I have it, but I have the hope and I have the knowledge due to past sufferings that I will be able to get over this and get back into the good part. Anyway. Then it's like the engulfing waters threatened me, the deep surrounded me, the seaweed wrapped around my head. Once again, more of like, this is literally what happened to him, but to us as well. Like, and once again, he's actually quoting Psalms as well, so it's not like me going crazy to be like, oh, and also for us. Yeah. Anyways, like, we're literally, like, we always have times, everyone has times in their lives where they just feel like they're being suffocated, they're being drowned, they can't get out, no matter what, feel like they've been thrown out, there's nothing for them to do, and like, to the roots of the mountains I sank down, the earth beneath barred me in forever. But you, Lord my God, brought my life up from the pit. So like, no matter how deep you go under, even if you hit rock bottom, even if you can never, like, can't even imagine what light or happiness or anything looks like again, God can bring you back up from the pit. And like, that's just so important to remember. It says like, here's like, when my life was ebbing away, when I remembered you, Lord, and my praise rose to you, to your holy temple. Those who cling to worthless idols turn away from God's love for them, but I, with shouts of grateful praise, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will make good. I will say salvation comes from the Lord. And it's just like, when you're at your lowest is also when you're at your highest. Like, when I am beyond depressed, when I am super depressed, and I just, because, depression goes in waves. I like this water metaphor. Anyway, depression goes in waves, and when I'm in a wave of, like, I just can't do anything, I can't see the purpose of anything, I just cannot do it, I just have, like, even if it's just me saying it, whether I believe it or not, like, you know what? God promised that He loves me, and that things are going to get okay eventually, maybe even not in this life, but things are going to be fine eventually, and that God will save me from this, and like that, like, even if I'm just saying it and I don't feel it at all, that's still, like, enough to get me through. And it's always just, like, because, like, and the hardest part about being in that depression is getting yourself to admit that fact. Not only, like, admit you're depressed, you can easily admit you're depressed when you know you have depression, but, like, remembering God. Because that's what the worst part about depression is, that you have no hope, and God is hope. So therefore you just, your life is ebbing away, but then you remember God, and then things get better. And so, like, this whole situation is, like, it's showing the whole reason, like, kind of the reason for suffering, like, to some extent, because it's like, Jonah was supposed to do something. He's supposed to go, to Nineveh, and he just said no. And so God was like, you gotta get some character development going on, because I need you to go to Nineveh. Like, that is your thing, that is your purpose du jour, and you are failing me. So I need you to get your life back on track. You are way too comfortable. You promised to be my prophet, and you are getting way too content in your situation. And so, unfortunately, like, I hate to do this, but I need you to figure something out. And so, he had him be eaten by a whale. He was watching the whole time. Like, I imagine if if a normal thing was in a creature for 3 days, they would have been, digested by then. But yet, Jonah wasn't, because he's like, I need you to deal and figure out, like, what you're doing. And so God, like, this was like a test that God was watching. Jonah was never in real danger. God was watching the whole time. And it's just like, and then finally Jonah's like, you know what? I'm in a really crappy situation. I am in a really crappy situation. But the thing is that I remember what I've been taught. I remember everything in my life, and I know that God is above all. And therefore, I need to remember God. I need to remember everything He promised me and everything I promised Him. And so, what I have vowed, I will make good. I have vowed that I was going to do your prophet work. So I will make good. and I will be happy and proud and pleased to do it. And so then the Lord commanded the fish, and it vomited Jonah on the dry land. So in other words, like, as I said, God was in control of this whole situation. He was waiting until God was waiting until he felt that Jonah was ready to move on and actually, do the thing that was next for him to do. And so sometimes, like when I'm depressed, I'm stuck in that pit and I'm stuck. And then finally when I'm like, yo, God, like, I'm sorry this took so long, but, I'm really depressed. Can you help me out? Even if it's not tonight and I just wake up feeling refreshed, I promise when I wake up feeling refreshed, I will go out and do your things. And you know what? God's usually like, I got you. You did it. You remembered to ask me for, remember to turn to me rather than trying to fix your depression yourself. You remember you're supposed to talk to me. And then the next morning when I wake up, I'm feeling renewed, I'm feeling rejuvenated, and I just, jump up and do the things I'm supposed to do. And I'm just like, it's a reminder of like, God, you're right, I can't do this. If I try to take control of my life, if I try to do things myself, if I, make a worthless idol out of myself, or the things that I can do with my own hands, I'm going to collapse and I'm going to, fall into this pit. But God can always bring my life back up from the pit. No matter how far I sink down, even if I feel stuck forever, the Lord my God can bring my life up from the pit. Yeah. So there's that. If there's, anything else that you want me to talk about, or if there's any topics you want me to talk about, or verses that you want to hear my input on, please, comment below. Thank you. Love you guys, and peace be with you. Amen.